Welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the place where you can learn how to create a dental practice and a business life that you love. Listen in with Dr. David Moffet as he interviews successful entrepreneurs and successful business people and successful dentists as they share their business successes, their stories, and their breakthrough ideas, sharing pearls of wisdom that you can take back to your practice and implement immediately so that you can have that great practice with more patients, higher profits, and less stress. This is the podcast where great dental practices meet with successful business processes. Thanks for tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the podcast where thought leaders, industry experts, and thriving practice owners reveal their very best tips, tools, and strategies that will help you grow your dental practice faster. Now, here's your host, Dr. David Moffet.
And welcome to today's episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. David Moffet. I'm in New South Wales, Australia, in Burrowing, New South Wales, Australia. It is Thursday morning, and my guest today is Katherine Eitel Belt, and she's in Temecula in California, 19 hours behind. So it is Wednesday evening for Katherine. Katherine, welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Nice to see you again. We've known each other for, I think, nearly 14 years, and it's great to catch up. Thanks for being a guest on my podcast.
Oh, it's just so great to be here and to see your face and just spend some time together talking about some great topics for your audience. Thanks for inviting me.
And as I mentioned before we came live, it has been a long time since I've been to the United States. It's 2019 was my last visit there, so it's coming up to 6 years thanks to COVID. And the thing with COVID was that it got me used to not traveling, which is kind of nice, not having to live out of a suitcase. But I did visit the United States, I think between 2007 and 2019, I visited the United States nearly 57 or 58 times. So a lot of miles, a lot of miles. That travel bug has been removed. But anyway, Katherine, thanks for joining me. You reached out to me and said, look, I've got some ideas that might be of value to your listeners and viewers, and I think they are. And as I said to you just before we came live, the topic that you suggested really had me hooked straight away. And I said, Katherine, we need to talk on that. And that topic was the three conversations that all leaders in business and dentistry as a business that they need to master. So let's just dive straight in. Well, before we dive straight in, you've been in dentistry all your life, haven't you, really?
I have. I started in college as a chairside dental assistant. Eventually, I worked my way up to the front desk sort of accidentally, but it was like a lot of people get up into the administrative area. I was, filling in for somebody, and I was handed an appointment book and a telephone and a pat on the back and good luck. And, I sort of flew by the seat of my pants and learned on the job. So I did that for many years and eventually managed a practice that grew to 3 locations. And so, I've worked in small practices and a larger organization. Ultimately, my career led me into coaching. I worked with a consulting company for a while till I broke away and wrote my own program. And then for several decades, that's what I did. I was a practice management consultant. The last 15 years, I've narrowed my focus to communications coaching only, primarily still in dentistry, though I do have clients in the veterinary field and in broader healthcare and some corporate arenas. So, but everything we do now is about communicating at a higher level. And we like to say that we deliver it in 3 different sectors or lanes. So one sector is patient-facing communication. Another one is team facing, so a lot of culture and leadership. And then the third is audience facing, which you and I've done some work together on, train the speaker, train the trainer kind of thing. So that's the short story for me and my company, Lion Speak.
Katherine, to use a cricket term, you've got the runs on the board. So you are talking, you are walking the walk, not just talking the talk. You've done it. You know what works. You know what doesn't work, and your testimony to the fact that dentistry has changed through your lifetime in dentistry, as it has in mine on the clinical side of things. And we need to be able to pivot and be on the crest of the wave or ahead of the wave rather than trying to catch up and paddle after the wave has gone. So that's why you are an expert in the dental field. And I think communication more than ever is something that dentistry has to embrace. The practice of dentistry, gone are the days where just hanging up a shingle and people would just turn up because your name sounded nice. You need to be able to tell people why you're different, but you need to be able to articulate that. It's not just about having a mission statement or something on your website. It's being able to actually physically say it when needed, pull the cord and say it and mean it and be able to communicate that, because that's the only difference that the public understand is how you make them feel. And that is your communication. You could be the best dentist in the world with the best systems, but if those systems and your skills aren't appreciated, then you're just vanilla. So communication is the key. So back to that topic of the 3 conversations that the leaders need to master, let's dive into that, because that's current. That's exactly where we're heading in dentistry. We're now moving from being a commodity and price-based to being an experience and something that is an emotional-based purchase rather than just open wide, close, buy. So tell us about those 3 things. I'm excited to find out.
Yeah. So you're so right, David, in that this idea of communication, it's interesting. You put a bunch of people together on a team in an office, you throw us all together, and some of us some days will schedule appointments. Some of us some days will do clinical dentistry. Some of us will take an impression some days or make up some trays. And there's things we'll do some of the time. But there's one thing we will do from the moment we arrive until the moment we go home with each other, and that is communicate. That is the one skill that is going to happen for everybody every day. And yet we throw ourselves together where we've not taken any classes on it, and we often didn't have great examples at home growing up. I will sometimes ask audiences, raise your hand if you had a set of parents or grandparents that modeled really beautifully for you a healthy way of managing conflict or addressing issues head on. Raise your hand. And maybe in an audience of, 1,000 people, I may get 3 hands. It's the vast minority that had that example at home. And so is it any surprise? Should it be any surprise that we throw us all together and we have issues? And patients feel it. Patients feel the difference between a team that is operating at a high level of maturity and respect and really clear communication and a team that is not. They absolutely are. But I'll tell you, these 3 conversations came about, the distinction between them came about because leaders, first of all, I think just the market has changed. And I'm not sure in Australia if it's the same. You can just kind of fill in for me. But for sure here in the States, there's been this huge trend toward consolidation in the last decade for sure. And as dental businesses have formed groups, added locations, added multiple associates, started DSO management companies, as they have started consolidating, they have, and because we have a bit of an employment crisis, they have been promoting people from within because they need a layer of team leaders. One person can't do it all. And so as they build this layer, this internal layer of management, they're promoting from within. But what I find is that they're throwing people into these positions. They're throwing them into the hygiene team leader position because they're a great hygienist, or they're throwing them into the clinical lead because they're an amazing associate doctor, or the office manager because she's a great administrator, or he's a great administrator. And so what happens with that is the skills that you need to be a great clinician are not the same as you need to be a great leader. They're not the same skills. And so we're often putting people in these positions and not giving them the unique set of skills that they need. And what I believe they need is the ability to have 3 basic conversations with the people who are looking to them for leadership. So I'll just tell you what they are, and then we can play around with them and break them down. So the 3 conversations that every leader needs to master, and it's a sequential list. So the first one is the invitation conversation. The invitation. The second is a coaching conversation. And the third is what we call a courageous conversations, or a crossroad conversation. So the invitation conversation is based on this idea that the vision for a practice, and what I mean by that is the picture of the place we're headed as a business. So in the next 3 to 5 years, if the owner of that business could have anything they wanted, what does the business look like? If that owner were dreaming their best business dream, in 3 to 5 years, what does the business look like? How many locations? What kind of dentistry are you doing more of? What kind of dentistry are you doing less of? What kind of patients do you have more of? Which ones do you have less of? What kind of team do you have around you? What's the facility look like? What kind of hours are you working? All of that. And so what we're basing the invitation conversation on is this idea that the vision and the values are only one person's to claim and one person's to articulate, and that is the owner or owners of the business. It's not up to, in my opinion, the employees to decide where the business is going to go, or what the values should be along the journey. That is an owner's prerogative, and it's their responsibility to be clear on that. Otherwise, I say, in the vacuum of our clarity about our vision as an owner, in the vacuum of that clarity, people just fill in their own. People come to work. Most people are good people. They come to work. They do the best they can. And if they aren't clear where we're headed, they just do the best they can. They just fill in their own. And so you got a lot of people going in a lot of different directions if we aren't clear about that. So the invitation conversation initially has to come from the owner. And the way that we help teams do it is we create an annual team retreat. Every year, the owner, we take a day, we take the team off-site, and the day is dedicated to realigning or creating alignment of the team with where we're headed, what we're building, and what is required in terms of behaviors along the way. And so, you know, David, we've got these generations working in the workplace that are different than they have been in the past. I'm a boomer, and so I can say this. The boomers had a different, we were of the generation where we just took direction, and, you know, we had a very different approach to work. But the current generations, they want to be a part of something, of a business that is up to an interesting game, that has a clear purpose and a clear creation that they're making. And they're often uninspired right now, but easy to inspire. And it's just that the owners of these businesses don't often do it. So that day is dedicated. Well, here's another thing they don't want. They don't want to feel that they've been forced to do anything. They don't respond well to that. Boomers did. These generations don't. And that actually works in our favor. Here's why. If you could get "you have to" out of your vocabulary as a leader, it'd be a really good thing. If you could get "demand" out of your vocabulary and instead insert the idea or even the word "invite." I'm inviting you or re-inviting you to come and join me in this journey toward this destination. I'm inviting you to come and belong to a team that has this set of values and has these high standards. You do not have to say yes. I would appreciate and respect and admire if you said that's not the game you want to play. Those are not the values that are important to you, that you're not in alignment. So I'll give you an example. I have clients that want to start at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm thinking of a client right now who's a cyclist, and he trains with a group of guys every day after work at 4 o'clock. So he wants to work 7 to 4 and be on that bike and train. And so he's the owner. It's his prerogative. He can have it any way he wants, and he does. But their morning huddle starts at 6:30 in the morning. So you can imagine when he interviews someone who he recently did, who was a single mother of 3, being there and being ready and energetic and ready to go at 6:30 in the morning it's very hard for her, if not impossible, in terms of her living out her life vision. Her life vision is to be the best mom that she can be for these children. And to be in alignment with that, she's out of alignment with the practice. So if we took out of our vocabulary, she's right or wrong, she's good or bad, if there's no judgment there, and we say it either aligns or it doesn't align, it either works or it doesn't work, there's no judgment about it. And so what we're trying to do for her is to say, our job as owners is to make sure that you're so clear about the invitation that you can make a good decision for yourself. You can make a good decision for yourself. And so we're going to talk in a minute about the other 2 conversations. But David, those 2 conversations are easier and better when they are sitting on the foundation of this one, of a solid invitation that basically is saying to people, look, if you cross the threshold on Monday morning, if you come to work on Monday morning and you walk over that threshold, you are essentially saying, I raise my hand and I sign up for that because I don't own the business. You do. And until I go out and start my own business, for now, I decide to work towards someone else's business vision. I do that. No victims here. There's no victims. We all get to choose. We're all grown adults and we get to choose. So owners that are listening to this call, you have to get clear on where you're going, what you're building, and who you want to be along the way. And then you have to turn around and unapologetically, you don't have to justify it. You don't even have to know why you want it. It doesn't matter why you want it. I mean, some people love ortho. They do ortho all day long. Some people love endo. They do endo all day long. I think they're weird, but I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. We like certain things. He wants to work 7 to 4, Tuesday through Friday. Other people think, oh my God, a 6:30 huddle is like my idea of a nightmare, So if we don't judge it, we just say, you own it. You take the risk, you get to have it any way you want, but you've got to turn around and make that clear to your people and let them choose. Respect that they can choose. So I've seen owners stand up and deliver that. We coach a lot of owners when we facilitate these retreats. We coach them in advance because the last thing we want is an owner to get up there and create more confusion than clarity. So we coach them in advance so they don't ramble. They don't, they get to the point, they deliver that vision clearly. Then I kind of circle back in and help facilitate questions and concerns from the team, because I tell the team, listen, get your questions answered now. Let's talk about what excited you when you listened to that. What worried you? What scared you? What do you have questions about? Because on Monday morning, when you come to work, you're raising your hand saying, I sign up for that. So who on this team should be surprised if you just listen to your owner say, as we did with a client just last week, say, in 3 years, I'd like to be doing 30% more Invisalign and 30% more implant cases than we're currently doing right now. I enjoy them. I want to do more of them. And that is all of the marketing, all of the systems, all of what we're doing is in service to growing this business in this way. I want to be off insurance plans, all those kinds of things. And so now he's cleared that up. He also said, it's important to me that one of my values is number one, mature communication, no gossiping, no triangulation, no low level behavior, no whining, complaining, blaming. I want people accountable. The second thing I want in a value is I want people who are on board for growth and change because I love new technology. I want to build a practice that has a reputation for being cutting edge technology and leading edge techniques. And so if you don't like change, you shouldn't work here. I am going to be embracing new technology and things are not going to stay the same. And if that's hard for you or bothersome for you, it's probably not a good alignment. And I make no judgment. I'm making no judgment. I'm just clearing up what you're agreeing to if you continue to work for me. And so I circled back in and said, okay, guys, so it shouldn't surprise any of you if next week your manager begins to meet with you to talk about what you're going to be working on, what you're growing into, what you're working toward. And it isn't because your manager is the bad guy. It's because your manager's job is to help you align with that owner's vision. That's their main job, their main job. So now that we know what the vision is, now your managers are going to go to work in helping you align with that. Do you see how the subsequent conversations all get easier when the owner has done this work? So that invitation conversation
I love that, Katherine.
is
It's
huge and foundational.
on so many levels. It goes back to the fact that you've taken it back to the fact that they haven't had an example in their family, let alone been given an example in dental school of what they're meant to do in managing people. They get a piece of paper.
Right.
You can drill teeth, but how much drilling? But there's no HR, there's no marketing, there's no customer service, and so this in the back of my head, I could hear this Dan Kennedy line talking about something that you'd be aware of as a coach, is that you've got to have clarity with your coaching contract with your client, because sometimes there's no match there either. And Kennedy, as crass as he was, says very hard to organise to write the prenup while you're going through the divorce, and that's exactly it. If you don't get the invitation right, then you have invited anybody with any rules or no rules to come in and be an influence in your business, because you haven't clearly articulated, you haven't clearly thought of what you want, and you haven't clearly articulated what you want to your team. I love that phrase that you said, we're making no judgment. We're just, I'm just clearing up and helping you align. That's it. There's no right or wrong. It's just we're different. And if we're different, we can't work together under my vision for what I want for my business, because sadly, I'm the one with the skin in the game, and there has to be foot soldiers and there has to be owners, and that's it. But referring back to that all the time, and that's your point of reference to then make sure that everybody's got those behaviours, the no gossip, the no, what do you call it, triangulation?
Yeah, you don't bring a third party in that has nothing to do with this, that can't help this situation. That's what gets rid of that gossip. And so, when we can get down to those team agreements, but it starts with the owner saying, I mean, both of us, David, we live in free countries. And so one of the beautiful things about living in countries like we do is that anybody can start a business if they want to. If anybody wants to do the work and take the risk and be on the line for the payroll and be on the line for the taxes and, all of that, they can do it. And what I say to the team is, any of you could go out and start a business, and some of you will down the road. Some of you will. But until you do, you have decided to work to help someone else create their business vision. That's what you decided to do. So it makes no sense for you to come to work and be upset with an owner because they want to go in a direction that's different. Many of you will work for a company that you think, if this were my company, this would not be what I would do. I would not do it this way. But until you start your own, that's your choice. And so we're offering your choice back to you. We're treating you like the adult you are. We are saying we 100% respect that you have choices. And so we can't make that choice for you. It's not ours to make. Only you can make it. We just want you to make it on really clear information. So our job is just to clear up what our invitation is and to offer it to you and to say to you, we hope every one of you will say yes. We hope every one of you will love it. We hope you'll come in and be a part of it. But that's not up to us. That's up to you. And if you choose it, then you choose it, all of it. You choose the work, you choose the growth, you choose the values, until the day when you open your own business. And then you can have it any way you want. And so it's so freeing. It takes someone being a little brave to, my experience, David, is that very seldom has anybody said, now that I heard that, I don't want any part of that. That hardly ever happens. I have seen it happen. I remember one time a doctor in the States, we have all this insurance mess. And I had a doctor that said, I don't want to be on any of these plans. I want to charge my fees. That's the fee and that's it. But until then, they had been on all these different insurances. And they had a full-time person whose only job was to bill insurance and to handle all of the issues with that. So when she heard this new vision, my vision in 3 years is to be 100% insurance independent. And we have one fee schedule and that's it. And that's what I'm going to build. Well, she looked like, when she heard that, like somebody had hit her upside the head with a brick, And so when we started facilitating the question, she said, what am I going to do? What happens to my job? And so he said, well, we won't have an insurance person full time. But I do have other things. We can't just stop being on the plans. Now we have to market in ways we've never marketed before. We've been getting our patients from insurance companies, but now we're going to have to get them through some marketing. And so I'm looking for people who want to be a part of building an amazing marketing machine here and getting customer service, ratcheted up so that we have a really strong referral base. And so he said, I'm going to be interviewing for those positions and I hope you interview. But at some point, we will not need this full-time job. And so she loved doing it. She loved insurance. She knew those codes and she loved it. And it was no longer alignment for this doctor. And so we found her a job with an office that wasn't their vision. Their vision was to figure the insurance game out. And so it was a much better alignment. So it's really down to that. And it's nice to say, it's not up to me to choose. My only job is to choose what I'm building as an owner and to clearly, I say, David, when you communicate anywhere, anytime to anybody, you only have to do two things. It makes it really simple, but it's not easy. But the two simple things we have to do when we communicate well, one is create clarity, right? Like even if you're communicating to a teenager, you're hoping they don't leave the conversation more confused than before you started, right? So we want to speak in a way always that creates clarity. The second thing we want to do, and it's the thing that balances clarity, because you could be super clear and be experienced as almost hostile or overly direct, right? So the balancing piece of a great communication is the person is clear, but they're also inspiring, right? So the most beautiful presentation from an owner to their team is to say, I'm going to be clear about what we're building and where we're going, and I'm going to be clear about the values that matter to me. But they do it in a way that says, I love you guys. I want you here. I have faith that we could do this together, but you have to choose to come in. I can't force you in. I don't want to force you in. I want you to choose on your own volition, and I want you to come willingly. And that's what I'm offering you. And so that's the piece. It's like, can we deliver this invitation in a way that we say, I mean, if it's really your vision and you can't get excited about it, then you've either not been honest or you're not a normal person. Like if I think about my dream home, if I think about my dream life, if I think about my dream relationship or career, it should excite me, right? Because I'm dreaming my dream. And so standing up before your team, you want to say, guys, I'm excited. I don't know. I've had owners say, look, I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do this, but I'm looking for a team that's wanting to get in the game and help me figure it out. That's what I want. But while I don't know how just yet, I do know what. I do know where. And it's this. And if what I'm looking for is a team that will help me figure it out along the way. And so beautiful.
I love that. It reminded me
So
of a story of a friend of mine who had a heart attack and was off work for 3 months. And when he came back to work the first morning, people just came to him with problems that they'd been on hold for 3 months. When do I get my holiday pay? Can I apply for this leave? Is our laundry going to be done? And he'd had enough by lunchtime that he just said, I'm calling a meeting on Sunday. Everybody needs to be here. And on that Sunday, he said, right, probably in a little bit more abrupt tone, he said, I'm terminating everybody and you have the opportunity of reapplying for your job, but these will be the conditions moving forward. And half the team actually didn't reapply. But the conditions moving forward made it much more simplistic for him to run a better office without the complications and without the I think there was just a lot of confusion going on because he had let the practice run his life, and it had almost run him into his grave, and so that's the alternative. Dentists often think, oh, I don't want to upset my staff. Yeah, and we talked about this in the lead up, but sometimes not addressing the elephant in the room and not addressing the elephant in the room at the start creates problems that are continuous and ongoing forever and ever that should have been nipped in the bud, so to speak. One of
Yeah, I love that story. And it's such a great example of what we're talking about. I have another quick story that's similar. I had a doctor who was a dentist in a very industrial suburb of a large city here in the States. And so, he was a third generation dentist in this practice. His grandfather had started it, his father had been an owner, and then now he was the owner. And he had a large team. It was a large practice. Also, his patients were generational. He was treating third generation patients, and he saw these people at church and at, the grocery store and, in town. And so these were people that mattered to him, and the reputation mattered to him. And so when he brought me in, I said, well, tell me what the vision is. And so we're talking through it, and he says, I want to buy 2 other or 3 other, I can't remember now, practices. And he said, we're already in contract for one. And he said, my team has gotten little whiffs of it but I haven't really said much to them, and they're very nervous about it. And I've got people that, I'm not sure, they may be looking for another job, and I just want to clear all this up. And I said, well, tell me, why are you doing it? Why are you interested? And he said, well, for a couple of reasons. Number one, we've had a lot of big corporate dental businesses that have moved into town. And we have all these big companies that are now offering insurances that are making it very hard for our patients to get the level of care they need. So some of our patients are leaving the practice, going to where they can use these benefits at these corporate dental offices that have they're using foreign labs, and their just materials are bad. And so all of a sudden I'm seeing these patients that I love come back to me with this terrible dentistry and in all kinds of bad shape. And I'm just curious. I don't know if I am smart enough to do this, but I feel like I need to try. I want to see if I can have 4 or 5 practices where we have enough buying power that we could go in with a sort of, you know, a scale that we could have some economies of scale. We could negotiate our supply costs for 5. We could negotiate our labs, but we could still keep our quality lab, and we could then compete price wise with these other places, but still keep our quality high. I'd like to see if we can do that, because I think our patients deserve it. They deserve it. And I said, okay, that's a good reason. And he said, also, I kind of like the game of business. I'd like to see if I could figure out and run a business like this that doesn't have to drop their quality or the quality of their experience. I said, listen, if you stand up before your team and say, here's why I'm going to do this, and I'm looking for people who are interested in helping me figure this out, to come in and help me see, could we form a small group where we could lower our overhead by the volume that we're able to do, but not sacrifice quality. I'm interested in people who think that's an interesting game and they'd like to come in and help me play it. And it was funny on the break. So I coached him. He delivers this. He did it much better than I just did it. But anyway, what I wanted to say though is he stood up initially and he said, I want to offer an apology. And this is one of the key things about leaders. Leaders take responsibility for whatever piece of the breakdown is theirs. And there almost always is a piece that's ours, almost always. And so, if you want people who take responsibility for their results and their outcomes, then we have to model that. So he stood up before this big team and said, I want to start with an apology. I have been kicking the can around of owning some additional practices and building a small group. And I have not talked to any of you about my vision. And so you have created all kinds of stories in your head. Most of them are probably not true, but I haven't stepped up and cleaned that up. And I'm sorry for that. I should have done it differently, and I didn't. And I just want to own it and say I'm sorry. And today, with Katherine's help, he said, I have decided to step into a whole new level of leadership, a whole new level of transparency, a whole new level of leading. And I'm asking for your help. I'm asking for your forgiveness, and I'm asking for your help. I'm asking for a reboot. I'm asking that we set the counters to 0 today and we start over. And I tell you what my plans are. I tell you what I want to do. And then you get to decide if you want to be a part of it. And then he went on with the vision. So on the break, we take a break afterwards, and I go to the restroom. And I'm in one of the stalls. And women are coming into the restroom, and many, didn't see me come in, or they don't know I'm in there, but they're talking. They're talking to their coworkers. And I hear a woman say, this is so interesting, because I was looking for a job. I've been interviewing because I did not want to be a part of a corporate dental thing. I do not want to do that. But now that I listen to this, I think I might stay. I think I might reconsider. And I thought, bingo, that we did just what we had hoped to accomplish. Stop the stories, speak the truth, and offer them if they're interested in coming in. So it's a beautiful way of doing it. And it's what leaders, that's why I say it's their prerogative, and it's also their responsibility. It's nobody else's responsibility to determine where the business
You're the one with this. I say it, you're the one with the name. It's your name on the door, and there's got to be some respect. One of the lucky lessons I had was I employed a dental assistant. She came from a temp agency for 2 years. Then she became a casual employee for me for 2 years and a permanent employee for 2 years. But she, as a dental assistant, and so she understood the importance of rank. And, there's multiple ranks in the military, and each rank has to answer to the one above. And there's a process of command. And she was able to bring that to the rest of the team, even as a temp. She had the experience to say, you need to be doing this. This is your role. And she taught the team in that 6 years to honour the owner and not challenge the owner so much in terms of, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm here for this. And that's often where businesses make the wrong decision. They take the wrong fork in the road because they don't want to upset a team member. And as we know, Jane's favourite movie, Working Girl, that scene at the end where they get rid of Sigourney Weaver and everybody claps when she leaves. That's so often happens in a dental practice. They get rid of the recalcitrant team member, and they go, "What took you so long, Doc?" So again, it's having that vision to be able to say, "This is how." It's just aligning, but this is my choice, and there's no right or wrong. It's just alignment. I love that, Katherine. What are the other two things that?
Yeah. So once you've done that, I mean, and I just want to say the comment about that. What you're doing is you're saying you're not a victim. I don't make you start at 7:30 in the morning. I don't make you work in a certain way or dress in a certain way. I'm asking that that's done in my practice, and I'm inviting you to say yes or no. If you don't want to do this, there are lots of other places. There are lots of other places that won't require this of you. But it's important to me. So, so it just gets rid of the victim mentality. And we're just swimming in a sea of victims in this world today. And it's up to leaders to stop being the victim. We're not the victim of these generations. If we're going to own a business, these are the generations we have as workers, period. So stop whining about it and start learning how to motivate them and how to inspire them. And they absolutely can be inspired. They absolutely can. We have some of them working for us at Lion Speak, and they're amazing. And so we just have to learn how to meet them where they are and help them to step their game up. The second conversation is a coaching conversation. And so how this works is once you've delivered the invitation, and people have said, okay, I'm in. I want to be a part of this. Now that doesn't mean they know how. It doesn't mean their skills are going to be good enough to get you there. So what the second conversation, now we're talking about leaders or a leadership team. So office manager, the clinical lead, the hygiene lead, whatever leadership position you have, you have to learn, I think, to coach people. And you and I are both coaches. We know that we don't get headway with statements. Our job is much like a counselor's job. Our job is to lead people to their own decisions, lead people to their own truth, lead people to their own commitments through a series of questions. And, supervision is an old baby boomer, industrial age, dead idea. It came from, the people that stood up in a second story window, looked down at the assembly line, and their job was to find the things that were wrong, that mistakes that were being made, the costly mistakes, and to get down there and get that corrected. That's supervision. We're scanning the environment for what's wrong and not working. That doesn't fly with the younger generations. But what does work is scanning the same environment, but instead of searching for the mistakes, we are now searching for the untapped potential. Where is there untapped potential in my people? Who could communicate better? Who could work more efficiently? Who has great ideas? I know they have great ideas, but they don't speak up at the meeting. They're hiding behind the plant at the meeting, and never speaking up. So as a coach, I meet with them regularly, and we have coaching sessions, just like I would coach with a client. I teach my clients' leadership team to sit and have regular coaching conversations with their people and to lead them to where the practice needs them to be through a series of questions that has the employee almost feel like it was their idea. And certainly to feel like that by getting better at this thing, whatever the thing is, that it's actually the way they get more of what they want. A good coach knows what the coachee wants. Do they want more money? Do they want more time off? Do they want somebody off their back? Do they want more respect? Do they want to eventually go back to school and do something else? I mean, I say to people all the time, why would you ever not give someone a raise? I hope that I have hired people who want to make a great amount of money. I want ambitious, focused, on point professionals to work for me. And I tell them there is no limit on what LionSpeak will pay you. None. Here's the formula. If you can come anytime and ask me for a raise, but be prepared to have the conversation of the three-legged stool. The three-legged stool. So if you have a three-legged stool, right? If you take any leg, it doesn't matter which leg, if you take it away, the stool, it can't stand. It won't function. It has to be all three legs. So the three legs for us is whatever this is, this idea, this raise, whatever it is, it's got to be good for you. I mean, the personnel, right? The team. It's got to be good for you. That's easy with the raise. It's got to be good for the practice. Giving you a raise has to be good for LionSpeak, good for our profitability, good for our productivity. It's got to be good for us. We've got to be able to see how that would be better. And then we've got to be able to see how it would help our clients. How would it help our clients? So if someone came and said, Katherine, I want to make $1,000 more a day being a trainer for you, I would say, great, let's talk about it. How do we make that three-legged stool work? What it's going to mean is that we're going to need to charge an additional $3,000 a day to pay you $1,000 of it, because $1,000 of that's got to go to profit, right? $1,000's going to pay you, and $1,000's going to pay some overhead. And so, if you're delivering a day with our clients, that they would write that check with no problem and would think it was a screaming deal, now we're talking, right? So I say to them, I will partner with you all day long to figure out how to advance your skills to a place that the client has no problem paying that fee, because you are that good. But until you're that good, and until we can raise our fees to cover that, and it works for the business, it works for you, and it works for the client,
yes.
Then it's a two-legged stool, or it's a one-legged stool.
No.
It stands for a minute, but it won't stand for very long, Yeah. So coaching conversations are around skill building. The final conversation are for the people that accepted the invitation, that we've coached them and their skills are high, and yet somehow they're still not meeting one of our standards. And that's a courageous conversation, or sometimes we call it a crossroads, because we're at a crossroads. And that conversation probably takes more time than we have here to really help someone have. But I will say this about it, that there's a simple 4-step process. And actually, I'm going to offer your listeners a free resource that explains the 4 steps of this conversation. I'm happy to share that. But the 4 steps are really about holding a standard and respecting that the person does not have to choose it, but if they do, they have to meet it. They have to meet it. And so I always say, be sure before you go into this that you've asked yourself these four reasons why people don't do what we want them to do. And I'll include this in the free gift. The 4 reasons people don't do what we want them to do. Number 1 is they're not clear. So the only way you can know if you've been clear is to have them tell you what the expectation is. David, I've been experimenting with teams for the last year. I've been asking teams, somebody tell me what time work starts. So I just did this last week with the team, and the gal in the front row raised her hand and she said, I know what time. And I said, okay, what time let's say I'm a new employee. What time do I need to be here to be on time? She said 7:50. I said, so if I walk through the door at 7:50, I'm considered on time. Someone else behind her raised their hand and said, that's not right. I said, well, what is it? And they said 7:45. Our morning meeting starts at 7:45. We see patients at 8. And the first gal said, we never start our meetings at 7:45. And the second gal said, well, that's because nobody's ever here on time. Right? And so then I look at the owner and he's got his head in his hands and he says, neither one of those are right. And I said, okay, doctor, what time does work start? He said, work starts at 7:20 because the meeting starts or supposed to start at 7:45. I'm sorry, 7:40. The meeting starts at 7:45 and we see patients at 8. And the first girl that answered said, no one I've worked here 18 months. No one has ever said that 7:40 is the time that work starts. And I said, okay, guys, so I have yet to have a team tell me the right time, a cohesive time. So there is a simple thing. I mean, you would think we would get that right, but we don't. We think we're clear, but we're not. And the only way we know we're clear is to ask. So are we clear? If we are they trained? Have we given them the resources and the adequate training? And the only way we know they're trained is they can do it for us. They can demonstrate it for us. So, Jane teaches telephone skills in a very expert way. But the only way we actually know that they got the training is that we do a mystery shopper, that we test it, that we can hear it, and then we can check the box. Yes, they have it. If we can check those two boxes, there is this middle box of, do we have the right person in the right seat, right? It's like that office manager you talked about that had been there the whole time. Like sometimes we have the most introverted person up front greeting patients and they're the shyest, they're not the right person. And so that one is, are they capable? Do they have the IQ? Do they have the capacity to do it? And that's a judgment call on our part. Only after you get yeses on all three of those do we go to the final one, which is, are they willing? Are they willing? And that's where the courageous conversations of saying, look, you don't have to do this. If you continue to be a professional in the position of a dental assistant with our practice, which we hope you will, then you must be here at 7:40, not pulling into the parking lot. You must be here at 7:40. And if that is not possible for you, we understand. We're not judging you. We're respecting you. And so I contend that all conflict swirls around either a missing agreement, there never was an agreement, clear, or there was and somebody has broken it. And we're making the request that they adhere to it again. And I'll tell you, most things go away when we test if we're clear, test if we've trained, test that they're capable, and then we have a courageous conversation if they're not willing. Because I find people that aren't willing often just don't agree with it, and we just have to say, this is non-negotiable. What's non-negotiable is that work starts at 7:40 every day. What is negotiable is whether you want to sign up for that or not. That's the piece we can't, that's open for some discussion. But what is not open for discussion is that work here, at least for now, starts at 7:40, or whatever the thing is. So, or your attitude, or contributing at meetings, or things like that.
Sitting in the corner with your arms crossed during a meeting, that sort of stuff. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not embarrassed to say, I know other offices don't require this. There are other dental practices you could work for that don't require that you speak up at meetings, but we do here. We do here. And so you don't have to say yes. I hope you do, but you don't have to. But if you do, I'm expecting at the next team meeting that you will have the right body language, you will have the right attitude, and you will be contributing and involved in the conversation. That's what I'm looking for.
There's a lot of moving parts, isn't there, Katherine?
Yeah. But it's doable. It is absolutely doable. And we haven't been giving people this training. And when they get it, it's like managers go, oh, I can finally manage. I can finally serve the people who look to me for leadership. So I'd love to share some resources with your group so that they can, and I hope, David, that your listeners will not only print it out and talk to their teams about it, but that they'll print it out and talk to their kids about it. I mean, we could raise a generation that could communicate at a much higher level if we would just teach them to do it. If we would teach them to do it. I'd absolutely love to offer a free resource to your listeners. There's a couple of things. There's an article in there about conflict and but one of them is a support sheet for courageous conversations. And I hope that not only will your listeners print it out and share it with the people they work with and talk about it and put it up in their team room and use it, but that you'll also consider printing it out and putting it on the bulletin board at home. Because I'm really passionate that we're living in a world right now that is hungry for great leaders everywhere. And I think we'd raise a whole generation of people, of new workers, that would be quite different if they knew how to manage conflict, if they knew how to communicate with clarity and inspiration. And so I hope they'll find it of value both professionally and personally. I will send you, David, the link for that. I'd also love for your listeners to check us out online. It'll be a bunch of free resources that they can use at work and hopefully at home, because I think if we could help our kids do the same thing, it would make the world a better place and launch a different kind of generation in the future of workers. So I hope you'll enjoy those resources. And then I'd love for you to visit us at Lionspeak, lionspeak.net. And go to the leadership with lots of things on there, but go to the leadership tab and you'll notice that we have some videos that are on demand, virtual videos on how to have a courageous conversation. And if they identify themselves with this code CC100, if they're interested in ordering that, then they'll save $100 on that video series. So I'll send all that to you. We'd love for you to find resources that are really make these conversations easier,
Katherine, there's
cause you to have put together a team
every
that
person,
you really
every
enjoy
business
and that you
needs to
love to see
improve their
every day.
communication. There is no finish line in communication. It's always about being better than you were yesterday, being better in the conversation than you were last time with that client, that family member, that child. It's about always showing respect and integrity and for them and getting that respect and integrity reflected back to you. And again, Jane always says, if we can't be cranky with people if they don't get the message that we're trying to send them, it's our fault for sending a message that's not clear. And so look at how we're doing things so that we get the response that we're after. She said, don't be disappointed if people behave differently to your expectation. It's how they're receiving your message. And sometimes they don't even want your message. And I think you've really helped today in bringing that elephant into the room and just saying, we can't ignore that there has been a shift in how our employees are behaving because there's been these generational shifts. And we do need to lead them to better communication skills and more realistic job expectations as well in terms of you can. You can. Well, Katherine, it's been great chatting with you and always good to see you. And thank you so much for spending time today as a guest on the Ultimate Dental Podcast. I've really enjoyed having you on the program.
Me too. I enjoyed every minute, and I wish you great luck and wish all of your listeners luck in their accelerated communications.
Thank you for tuning in to another inspiring episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you for being a part of our dental community and joining us each week on this incredible journey. If you found value in today's episode and you don't want to miss out on future episodes packed with expert insights and actionable strategies, here's how you can stay connected with us. Firstly, hit that subscribe button. Whether you're listening on your favorite podcast platform or watching on our website, Subscribing ensures you'll never miss an episode. Secondly, share the love. If you know a fellow dentist or colleague who could benefit from the wisdom and knowledge that we share here, please share our podcast with them. Also, please share the podcast on your socials by simply clicking on the social icons wherever you view or listen to this podcast. Together, we can all do our bit to elevate the dental profession. And finally, stay engaged with us. We love hearing from you. Your questions, comments, and feedback fuel our mission to provide the best content for your professional growth, your personal growth, and for your practice growth. Remember, your journey to creating a dental practice and a business life that you love is our mission, and we're excited to be your trusted guide along the way. Thank you for being a part of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and keep on tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast.